let's get some rest. A big day ahead of us. Your seeds work like steps. My child, don't make a sound. It's time to sleep now.
I don't think I've ever looked at a photo or painting, a photo book, any kind of still image, and had it have a real emotional impact on me in the way that, say, watching a movie I love might do, where I'm given so much more information and context to digest, until I saw Family Car Trouble by Gus Powell. So often I get a new photo book, I look through it, I sense meaning, I sense story, but I feel like I can't quite comprehend it. And it'll take multiple viewings and a lot of attention to start connecting dots and getting something out of it. And then, often each time I look at the book, I see something new, and that's cool, that's the beauty of the photo book. But with Family Car Trouble, from the first time I looked at it, it was like I just felt it, I knew it. It was like, like I was right there in it. Just a completely unique experience for me to have with a book. And it's a lot of family pictures. Gus's two kids, they're often playing, and really reminds me of that carefree nature and spirit that's just so pure at that young age. And that's juxtaposed against Gus's terminally ill father, who is approaching death. And the two are married together really well, just with the beautiful sequencing of this book. It's like there's some almost like exchanges between the kids and their grandfather, where I see the love and concern in the kids, but probably the age that they are, not fully grasping life and death, against the sadness that I see in him of coming to the end of his life and knowing that he's going to be leaving them behind. And then there's the family car, which is the Volvo station wagon. It keeps breaking down and reappears throughout the book. And, you can see that as a metaphor, but I think what it does so well is provides this just like needed relief throughout the story and adds a ton of charm at the same time. So that's my brief overview of the book. It's incredible and hard to do any justice in this kind of setting, really. I'd highly recommend getting it and checking it out. It's not an expensive book, but I did pick out a couple of photos that I really loved, and I thought I'd talk about those quickly. So this first one is the mother and the two kids, and she's sort of standing in the middle, almost like she doesn't know which way to look. And to me, she has this sort of overwhelmed, worrisome expression on her face. And I get that feeling from this picture, but then I see all this love in it as well. And, becoming a father recently myself, it's like, it's the best thing ever. But you love your kid or your kids so much that it can feel just super overwhelming at times. And also see strength in this picture, just how strong mothers are. They do so much, they mean so much to us, and often the mother just bears so much in a family. And I think with that said, this is a very powerful picture. And then this picture here, this is the one that got me when I first looked at the book. I got that big flush of emotion. It wasn't immediate, it didn't click straight away, but then when I saw it, it just hit me really hard. I'd realised that Gus's father had passed away. And I included this because it speaks volumes about how well this book is sequenced and just how important sequencing is in general. Because, it's a nice picture, but out of sequence and context, there's no way it could have that much impact. And I mean, every detail about this book, like down to the size of it, which completely caught me off guard when it arrived. Like, it's quite small, almost the size of a novel. it just makes it feel more personal. Like every detail accentuates the story here, and I mean, it just has this amazing flow to the book. An instant favorite, probably my favorite photo book that I own now, and incredible. It's Family Car Trouble by Gus Powell.
I don't have the keys to photography. There aren't specific answers to lots of the big questions.
When I first got into taking pictures, like really interested in it, I was in my early 20s, pre-Instagram and YouTube. I didn't have any photo books, and I don't remember really seeing any. I just always thought of pictures working together in a series to, attempt to say or mean something. That's naturally just where I went with it. And I would get all these ideas and get super excited about them. But ultimately, I'd either A, not even start working on them, or B, abandon them, once the reality of actually making them set in and the self-doubt. And to me, this course is like the guidebook of how to navigate all those issues and get past the roadblocks. After watching it, it's like 5 hours worth of video. I recently also watched all of Alex's YouTube videos, which are amazing. He has a gift as a speaker and an educator. He's very good at it, so humble, and just makes himself very relatable. It's like, here's this very well-regarded photographer. He's made all these books and had an illustrious career. He's known for portraits, and he's talking about in the beginning how nervous and shy and awkward he was to approach people, and how he loved Robert Adams' Summer Nights, so he basically just copied it. And if you're into taking pictures, you can almost definitely relate to that, because we've all done it. But he's also letting you know that that's fine. Like, that's the way that we learn how to do things. And he talks about his failures, continued self-doubt, and just has this way of making you feel like you're his equal, and just offers so much invaluable advice and insight on how to get past all the humps and continue to grow and to learn. There's so much in this course, there's 3 different case studies. Alec talks about working on each one of his books, like tons of stuff, but one thing that I did find particularly interesting is when he spoke about cliches. And he gave the example out of his book, Niagara, and it's this photo of the waterfall. And he admitted that it's a cliche, it's like a picture that millions of tourists make. And he explained how it works and became essential to the series for him, just because of how it falls with the tougher images around it in the book. And he also explained how he finds it important to not avoid cliches, but to try and ride right up to the edge of them. And I just found this fascinating, because all the times I've looked at this, I've never, got to that particular picture and thought that's a cliche. And when I'm out taking photos, I'm always like mindful of those kind of pictures. Like, I feel like they're not worth taking. In my head, I'm like, why would I take that? Everyone takes that picture. But as he explains, you take them and you can edit them out later, but they could also become essential. And it just completely flipped my way of thinking about that on its head and made sense out of it for me. Since I was a kid, I loved to draw, and then I got older. I loved to play music, take pictures, make videos. I always had this creative desire, but for whatever reason, I also always felt the need to push back against it. A great example of this would be if I meet somebody in person and they might say they've seen one of my videos or something like that, and I feel embarrassed because, like, in my mind, it sucks or whatever. And I left this course with the complete opposite feeling, like I just want to lean into that creativity. And that was an amazing feeling, because it was like this relief and I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this, but like this acceptance of just, that's me, that's who I am, and that's cool, like I should be proud of it. And I don't know, it gave me confidence in myself and courage to believe in my ideas more and want to explore them. So yeah, I found it deeply inspiring. So I'm 33 years old, and I've lived in the same town my entire life. It's a pretty small place, and so you can imagine my surroundings. They feel very familiar. And so about 3 or 4 months ago, I was going out for a walk with my daughter, which I like to do often, and I thought I'll take my camera with me, which I normally wouldn't be inspired to do. And I'm going to challenge myself to try and see fresh, just try and see as though I'm visiting a place for the very first time. And I got a lot of value out of doing this. And I found it interesting that I was giving these pictures no thought in terms of subject matter. It was just about seeing. And, I get that that's sort of nothing new. It's kind of the whole Eggleston thing of, everything is photographable. But it did get me thinking a lot about subject matter and why I like certain pictures and others not so much. And more recently, I started reading this book, which I haven't finished yet, but it's called To Photograph is to Learn How to Die. It's by Tim Carpenter. And I have to admit that a lot of it is over my head. There's a lot of big words in there I don't understand, but certain parts of it have resonated with me quite a bit, and coincidentally he does talk about subject matter and form quite a bit, so I'll try and briefly summarize some of that, but it talks about how subject matter that is too interesting can overwhelm a picture, which made a lot of sense to me. You look at it, and once you comprehend it, it's sort of like the picture is exhausted. You don't really feel the need to continue to look at it or to return to it. And then you have pictures, the kind of pictures that I love. I'll use, say, Robert Adams as an example. It could be a picture of a tree or a field, just a very simple landscape. They feel like pictures that anybody could take almost, but given their context, they ask so many questions of you as the viewer. They demand your attention. They're ambiguous. It's almost like it's left up to you as the viewer to complete the picture. Stephen Shaw is another great example. I was just thinking about this the other day, like with Uncommon Places. There's a huge nostalgic element to those pictures now, but that was non-existent when he was making them. So when you think about it, they're pictures that give you very little. But once you start to really look and notice the detail, the depth and the layers, they're extremely compelling. And with all that sort of rattling around in my brain, I realized, my surroundings are not really familiar at all. They only seemed familiar on the surface, and that realization has been very inspiring. So, yeah. Hopefully some sense was made there, but I think that's probably a good place to wrap this up. And obviously this has just been a few things sort of at the forefront of a recent wave of inspiration, which sort of all happened to be photographic, but I definitely take inspiration from all over the place. And I'm somebody who's always lent heavily into it, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I know some people go sort of the opposite way and try to avoid too much influence or inspiration, but I've always lent into it. And yeah, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. I'll catch you again soon. See ya.